You know that feeling, right? You're in a conversation and someone's words are saying one thing, but your gut is telling you something completely different. Well, that feeling? It comes from a powerful unspoken language. Today, we're going beyond words to decode the secrets of nonverbal communication. We're going to debunk some common myths, explore the three key channels, the face, the voice, and the body, and learn the single most important rule for figuring out what's really being said. Okay, so let's just jump right in with a number that might kind of blow your mind. Researchers figure that as much as 60% of all our communication happens without a single word being spoken. Think about that. More than half of what we're saying to each other isn't said at all. It's a huge part of how we connect and understand each other, but most of us never really learn how to read it. So what exactly is this nonverbal communication we're talking about? Well, put simply, it's all the signals we send when we're not talking. It's everything from how you stand, to a quick smile, to a nervous tap of your fingers. And these signals are incredibly powerful. They can either back up what you're saying and make your message even stronger, or they can totally contradict your words, betraying feelings that you might be trying to hide.
And that brings us to the core of this whole explainer, the body's secret language. Because when there's a mismatch between what someone says and what they're actually feeling, the body is often where the truth comes out. Learning to spot these physical cues, well, that's the first step to reading between the lines.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. Our bodies just have a really hard time lying. You see, we can choose our words very carefully, but our subconscious thoughts and feelings, they have a habit of leaking out through our posture, our gestures, our expressions. And that's why, when someone's body language doesn't match what they're saying, we get that gut feeling that something is off, even if we can't explain exactly why. Now that we have a sense of how powerful these signals are, it's so important that we separate the science from the stereotypes. There are a lot of popular ideas out there about lie detection that are frankly more myth than reality. So to become a better observer, we first have to unlearn what we think we know. This leads us right to what some people call the Pinocchio effect. You know, the idea that there's one single surefire sign that someone is lying, just like Pinocchio's nose growing. Maybe you've heard that liars can't look you in the eye, or that they fidget a lot, but is it really that simple? Well, the science tells a very different story. The myth says there's a single tell, but the reality is there are no guaranteed clues to deceit, period. Someone looking away doesn't automatically mean they're lying. It could just mean they're shy or thinking hard, or maybe it's even a cultural thing. What the research actually shows is that these cues don't signal a lie itself. Instead, they signal an internal state, like stress, emotion, or the mental effort, the cognitive load of trying to cook up a convincing story. So you might be thinking, okay, if there are no lying cues, then why do people who are being deceptive often seem so different? It really boils down to three things. First, their emotional reactions, like the fear of getting caught or guilt, which can create physical tension. Second, the cognitive activity. Lying is hard work. You have to invent a story, remember all the details. It takes a lot of brain power. And third, behavioral control. Sometimes people who are lying try so hard to act normal that they actually become stiff and unnatural. Okay, so to make this a little easier to spot in the real world, we can break down all these signals into three main channels where they tend to show up. Think of it as three places to look: the face, the voice, and the body. First up, the face. This is, by far, our most emotionally expressive channel. It's where we show those universal emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, that people recognize all over the world. But the really fascinating thing, especially for spotting hidden feelings, are microexpressions. These are super fast, involuntary facial movements that flash across the face in just a fraction of a second. They happen so quickly you can easily miss them, but if you catch one, it can be a huge clue that someone's trying to cover up how they really feel. Our second channel is the voice, and it's all about that old saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. The words are only one part of it. The vocal tone, like if someone's voice suddenly gets higher or louder, can reveal a lot. For example, a higher pitch can signal nervousness. And then there's the vocal style. This includes things like that little pause before answering a question. That's called response latency. or other stumbles in speech that can point to stress or a mind working overtime.
So, just how much does this stuff matter? Well, one famous study looked at how we communicate feelings and attitudes, and the results were pretty shocking. The actual words we use, they accounted for only about 5% of the impact. Our vocal cues made up 45%, and our body language, a whopping 50%. Now, this doesn't apply to every single conversation, of course, but it's an amazing reminder of how much we're saying when we're not even speaking.
And that brings us to our third and final channel, the body itself. Your posture can be like a giant billboard for your confidence. Standing tall and open often signals you feel in control, while slumping might suggest the opposite. Little gestures like fidgeting with a pen or tapping your foot can be signs of nervous energy. And even interpersonal space, how close or far someone stands from you, sends a message about their comfort level.
Okay, so we have our three channels, face, voice, and body, but just spotting these signals isn't enough. To really interpret them accurately, you need to follow a golden rule. It's a two-part process, and it is absolutely the key to putting this all together. Step 1, and this is the most important part, you have to establish a baseline. Before you can ever spot what's unusual, you have to know what's normal for that person. How do they usually talk and stand when they're just relaxed? Once you know they're normal, then you can move to step 2. Look for incongruence. This is when you notice a change from that baseline, or you spot a moment where their body language flat out contradicts their words. That change, that deviation, that's where the interesting stuff is. And this leads us to the second part of the rule, which is just as critical. Context is everything. A nonverbal cue means nothing by itself. For example, if someone is telling you about a scary car accident and their face shows fear, that makes sense, right? It supports their story. But if they show that exact same expression of fear while telling you what they had for lunch, that's a mismatch. The cue is the same, but the context changes the meaning completely. So let's try to put this all together. We're going to walk through a really practical example to see how this idea of baseline and context works in the real world. Okay, imagine you ask your friend if they're okay and they say, "I'm totally fine, really." That's the verbal part. But you know their baseline. Normally, their voice is pretty steady and they're not fidgety. This time, you notice their voice is a little higher than usual, they're fidgeting. And as they say the word fine, they give this tiny little headshake no. All those nonverbal cues are contradicting their words. Now, the meaning isn't automatically my friend is lying, but that contradiction is a massive clue that there are hidden feelings, and something is probably wrong. And this is such an important point. The goal here is not to become some kind of walking lie detector, going around pointing fingers. That's actually a terrible idea. The real goal is to become a more sensitive, more focused communicator. It's about learning to listen to the whole message, the words and the music behind the words, so you can better understand the people in your life. So this all leads to a really big question, doesn't it? If nonverbal cues can't tell you for sure that someone is lying, then what on earth should you be looking for instead? Well, the answer is to shift your focus. You're not looking for a lie. You're looking for the story that's happening behind the words. You have to forget the myth of a single, foolproof tell. Instead, you patiently observe the three channels: face, voice, and body. And most importantly, you always filter what you see through the lens of that person's normal baseline and the context of the situation. And now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's body language was screaming the opposite of what their words were saying? What happened? We'd love to read your stories, so please leave them and any questions you have for us in the comments below. If you found this explainer helpful for decoding the world around you, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us make more deep dives just like this one. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really hope this gives you a new way to see the world. And remember, don't just listen to the words, look for the story.